Go ahead and call to order this meeting, the Thursday, September 21st meeting of the Ames Parks and Recreation Commission. First item on the agenda is an approval of the minutes from August 17th, 2023.
I will move to approve said minutes.
I'll second it.
Oh man, I was getting nervous.
Motion on the table is to approve the minutes from August 17th, 2023. Is there any discussion? All right. All in favor of approval of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Seeing none, the motion carries. The next item on the agenda is a public forum. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak on items that are not on the agenda. Does anyone in the audience like to speak on an item not on the agenda? All right. Seeing none, we'll close public forum.
Joshua.
Oh, you want pickleball? Okay. Okay. I'll go ahead and open public forum again. Did you want to speak on something? So, just state your name and address for the minutes.
My name is Merle Brendlin. My address is Huxley, and I'm representing Ames Pickleball. And we have the opportunity to provide, with the addition of a grant, $16,000 for improvement on the pickleball courts. And this would be windscreens and pickleball court furniture. And what we were looking for is concurrence and acceptance that this would be suitable. And to go along with application of the grant, we would like a letter saying, that maybe not you endorse this project or that you will be working with us to purchase the furniture, but it would all be done with these funds coming from the Ames Pickleball Club.
Okay.
That's my only issue.
Do you want us to make a motion to direct staff, or do
You can't for public forum.
Can't make it. Okay.
So with it, you can bring it up as commissioner comments
Okay.
if you want. Although Merle has sent us this information,
Okay.
so we can just respond, to him,
Okay.
as well. But if you want to make a motion, it would have to be during commissioner comments.
Do you want us to make a motion, or
You can.
put it on a future
No,
agenda?
you can.
Okay. We'll make a motion at the end to direct staff to, work with the pickleball club to develop a plan regarding this grant application.
Just to submit a letter.
And then to submit a letter.
The grant application is due September 30th, so we're under some
Okay.
Yep.
times of the essence.
Okay.
So, and that's it for today. Thank you.
Sounds
Awesome.
good.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. I will close public forum. Next item on the agenda is the 2024 through 2029 capital improvements plan.
Yeah. So with this, just gonna go through and for people in the audience and for those at home, just share a little bit of information regarding capital improvements plan and give you information regarding the public input that we had last week. We sent some of that information out with the agenda. Hopefully you had a chance to read that, and then some emails that we had received, as well. Like we talked in August, kind of shared just the process. I'm not going to go through all of these dates. We are on September 21st, so opportunity to share, like I said, public input, and then if others want to provide some additional feedback, they can. And then you can see it go through October. November 20th is our deadline for submitting, and then commission will meet with the city manager on December 7th. And then we get into January, we present to city council. They do have a public hearing, and then they do approve the CIP in February. So that's kind of the process. So, again, just from a funding standpoint, just wanted to again remind everybody there's really two things that we have: operations, and then our capital improvement plan, which again referred to as the CIP. So operations is a lot of the day-to-day activities. Those are funded through fees and charges, donations and grants, and then a lot of it is with property taxes as well. Now, capital improvement plan, with this one, most of the funding comes from local option sales tax, but we do get, donations in grants. There are some projects that are done through GO bonds. Obviously, our large projects like the Fitch Family Indoor Aquatic Center, majority of that will be coming through GO bonds. But then we also do have, the shared funding. And the shared funding, the most recent example of that is the accessible kayak launch up at Ada Hayden, where the Access Ada Hayden group went out and they raised over $40,000. The city put in 50. So we shared that funding and then got the project done. So that would be an example of that. So with it, our current CIP, and if you remember last year when we put the CIP together, there were some projects that had come up that we needed to add money to, some things that we weren't really expecting that we needed to take care of. So a number of projects did get pushed back, and I will preface going through these projects right now is we will be having a conversation. When I say we, Courtney, Joshua, and I with the city manager and finance late next week. But one of the things that we're talking about is we have a backlog of projects, and we have some projects that we need additional funding for, which I'll show that to you here in a little bit. So what we may wind up doing is, this 24-25, which was year 2 of the current CIP. Generally what that does, all those projects for the next 5-year plan would move up to year 1. So one of the things that we will be having conversation about is potentially keeping year 2 as year 2, 3, 4, and 5, using 1 to use that funding next year to add funding to some of the projects that we need, and really not add anything new, unless there is something that we have. There are some skate park repairs that we probably need to do, so we may have to do some kind of moving around of some of these projects. But we'll know more at the November meeting, or at the October meeting, sorry. Be able to give you a little bit more of what we're doing. So we still want your feedback, but I just wanted to let you know that may be something that we wind up doing. And there isn't a lot of new projects infused into this. So you'll see here in a little bit. But for right now, 24, 25, these are the projects that we have, shown. I'm not going to go through every one of them, or really any of them. One thing that you will see is ADA improvements. We do have $100,000 set aside in each of these years, for things on the transition plan once we get that finalized. But other than that, they are kind of self-explanatory. For 25, 26, you can see there the number of projects, that we have. Moore Memorial Park Bridge, that did, if you looked at the comments from the public input meeting, there were a number of comments about the trail that eventually will go up Shoal Road to Ontario. And then for 26, 27, number of, different projects there. Hayden's Preserve, that's the development west of Hyde, west of Ada Hayden. And there's just been really no traction, with that development. So if anything were to get moved out of this, it probably would be that, and that could make its way or make some funding available for other projects. I should also say that with the ice arena, anytime you see the ice arena up here, with those projects, we do have a capital reserve fund. And the city and Iowa State University put money into that fund every year. So that's what funds any capital projects for the ice arena. Most everything else comes out of local option sales tax. Then for 27, 28, you can see, again, just a number of different projects. One of the things that you did see in the comments or the email comments, there was some comments about River Valley Park, canoe kayak access, and maybe what needs to be done there. So there are some things that we need to look at, and we may have to shuffle things around a little bit based on some of the feedback, and then we'll actually go out and we'll look at some of these areas again as well. So additional funding needed. So right now, with the Daly Park splash pad, and we've talked about this for a while, and I think initially we might have had 300,000, then we moved it up to 400 or 500,000, and we've been adding additional money. So I think we're up around 600,000 right now. But the latest cost estimate is 1.2 million, and one of the reasons for that is because we're doing a recirculation system. With that we do have to abide by the Iowa Department of Health, the state of Iowa, all their requirements for swimming pools, because when you're recirculating water. So we have to add restroom, shower facilities, and everything, and that's where a big chunk of that comes from. So we will be in October. We will be taking this back to City Council, giving them an update on this. And when we initially were looking at the splash pad, we did give them a couple of different options. One was the recirculation system. The other option was doing a flow-through system, and the flow-through system is basically use potable water. It goes through the features, and it goes to sanitary sewer, and goes to the water plant. With that one, we were looking at probably 8 million gallons or more per season that we would use that way. With the recirculation system, it's more cost up front, and we were really not looking at, we were looking at maybe about 200,000, because that's what the recirculation system and UV and everything would cost. But with that only used, I think it was between 600,000 and 800,000 gallons of water for the season. So only about 10% of what you would get with the flow through. We are going to bring that back to council, and see if they have any desire to go to a flow through system versus going to or keeping with the recirculation system. So anyways, with and there obviously are a lot of other things with the recirculation system. We have staff time. We have to test the water before we open. We have to test the water when we close. It needs to be tested. Some of that can be done remotely throughout the day. But there's a number of different things that need to be happen. Whereas the flow through, you still have to check it, but you don't have to do the testing, throughout the day. So that's a big chunk of money that we want to get that project done. We've been talking about it for a while. So that's one thing that needs additional funding. And then the park maintenance facility, looking at adding, some a building, a storage building, renovating the current maintenance facility to include more space for, a break room, training room. That could be one kind of a break/training room, because we want to bring all of our park staff together into one area. So we have $500,000 set aside, but we're not thinking that's going to be enough money. So we need to add some additional funding to that as well. So those are the two big things that, with what I described earlier, this is what could eat up, that funding for year one. And I should also mention too, is that with the CIP, it's a 5-year plan. But with the 5-year plan, when City Council approves it, funding is only allocated for year one of the plan. Years 2 through 5 are adopted in concept, but there's no funding with it. So So just so everybody understands that part of it. Now, with the public input, we did have that session held last week, Wednesday, and I'm not going to go through all the meeting notes or the email comments. I've kind of summarized some of that. And then there's some suggestions throughout the year as well. But so far, there's a number of East River Valley items and really, talking about some of the construction that was going on, the water line and the new wells that WPC is putting in, and so on, and then ruts that happen. So bike racks at Car Park, bike rack at the South Restroom at Ada Hayden, benches along Car Park. Now, some of these aren't necessarily CIP worthy. Some of these, I've already talked to Joshua, benches along Car Park. We'll just, get some benches, install those part of through operations. The bike racks could be something also that we do through operations, unless we wanted to do something and add a lot more bike racks. But, Joshua and I were talking that when, we both entered into our current positions in 2013, I think we had one bike rack in the park system, and it was an old, what I call a tire bender, one of those low bike racks. It was out at Ada Hayden in the grass, and then we put in, I think, $25,000 in the CIP, and we added, 15 bike racks, something like that, throughout the park system. So we do have a lot more than what we used to, but we still need some more. Adding sidewalks to O'Neill Park. We have sidewalks on the south and the west side, but not on the north or the east. Skate park repairs. Josh was going to be meeting with an individual. Courtney has already had some conversation with an individual about some things that need to be done out there. Shade for portable toilet, bike rack at Roosevelt Park. There were a number of things, regarding more Memorial Park items, Shoal Road, Ride, vehicle traffic counters. So I tried to get responses, which you've seen there. And some of those things, not even city responsibility. Shoal Road is a university road. So any repairs that would need to be done through the university. Indoor Aquatic Center, which, we're all familiar with how we're moving along there. Rinse shower near Cottonwood Shelter, and then the canoe and kayak accesses. So those are some of the suggestions. This year we have had some, and what I mentioned to the attendees, and I will say we had 22 people at that meeting last week, which is the most that we have ever had. Yeah. And it was interesting. I was talking to the person that was working out at Homewood and said, "Oh, are you expecting a lot of people?" And I said, "No, usually 3, 4. I think the most we've ever had was 7 or 8. And this is like 4 minutes to 6. And then they just started coming and they kept coming, and which was great. Yeah, it was a good conversation, a lot of good dialogue. But these are some things that we have heard, in the past, with it, and then there's some more. So again, some of them would be taken care of. Parkview North, we have that playground going to be replaced, I think, either this year or next year. So that's we've been adding a second bay when we do redo the playgrounds anyways. So, and then we also have had conversation with staff, and here's just some of things that they have added. And then there were some responses that they had from previous years as well, some suggestions. So again, what we always try to look at with all of these things is, and what we talked with staff as well, is we need to maintain what we have. We need to keep service levels, the same. And when I say service levels, so if we have a sound system, say like out at Bandshell Park, and it's not working, to keep that facility viable and to do what we want to do out there. If that needs replacing, we need to replace it so we can keep that service level the same. If we don't replace it, then it's going to fall. All sound equipment would fall on the users, and that would be a big change. So those are things we can say, try to keep that. So maintenance, service levels, that really is priority. Anything that's mandated, required, those are things that we need to keep doing and make sure that we're doing. So that's just kind of a quick rundown. So Joshua, Courtney, anything that I missed?
That's a pretty conclusive list. Got it all.
So comments from commissioners regarding the CIP.
I have a question. Did the Sands McDormand property close? Is that done?
That would be 6C.
Oh, well, that's fine. Because, well, my question is related to the CIP. Because if there, I mean, I know development of that park is probably outside of the scope of the CIP, especially if we're kind of bumping everything out a year. But I mean, in terms of a West Ames dog park, especially on the south side of that property where it is, already cornfields on the south side, to take some of that and turn that into a fenced area. Although I guess I don't know from that standpoint if there would be concerns from the neighborhood, but I think you could have it in a way that was not too close to the neighborhood. I'm just, I was just thinking in context of that property,
Yep. So how about I address that when we get to that other item?
I guess.
And because I'll go ahead and I'll give you a rundown of just our plan, for McDormand property right now. But yeah, there won't be any development there for a while.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah.
So that's why you don't see anything in the CIP. Yep, Jeff.
Well, I'm thrilled to see the emphasis on the water trail that we had, the state water trail on the Skunk River, and that we're trying to bring it up and make it a little easier to use with some access points and some better use. I'm down there periodically and I see people all the time fishing and wading and splashing and swimming and sometimes paddling through there when there's water. But we just haven't had any water there in 3 or 4 months. But I'm particularly interested in being able to paddle through there and keep on going down and have an access down on Southeast 16th so we can get out too. It's difficult at this point.
Right.
But I'm glad to see that we're addressing it.
Yeah, good.
I was curious with the increase in participation with the meeting last week. Do you know what prompted that? Was there a different line of communication that went out, or how did people share how they found out about it?
Probably.
I don't think that we did anything different, this year than what we have in the past. And the avenues that we use, we do a press release. We put it on our Facebook pages, I believe. But then we also have our newsletter that goes out every Thursday, and we had it in there for 2 or 3 weeks. And I think a lot of people get that newsletter and really look at it to get information. So, I didn't ask that question, but there were a good number of people from the whole Kingman neighborhood, which is out there by Shoal Road. That was a chunk of people. There were people in regards to, and I don't necessarily know that they live in the car park, East River Valley area. A couple of them do. I don't know that all of them did. But yeah, there was just a good cross section. So I'll tell you what I can do is I still I got all their email addresses, and I told them that I would follow up with their questions. So I haven't done that yet. So I'll be sending that out, and I'll just ask the question,
Yeah.
how'd you find out about it? And and what prompted you? Some people are there. There were repeat people there, and then there were people that I have never seen before. So
I do know that this did go out to a large number of paddlers, that this meeting was happening, Skunk River paddlers. And I think that there were a fair number, I don't know how many precisely, but probably at least 5 or 10 from the Skunk River paddlers or affiliates.
It could have also been that, if there's a neighborhood association in that Kingman Road area, that one of the neighbors forwarded on the newsletter and just made other neighbors aware if you got several people from that neighborhood. So
and here I thought it was because of the speaker.
well,
You want more next time? I can have my son post it on TikTok.
I will say
Yeah, there you go.
I do think the Parks and Rec newsletter, whether it's Katie or her team doing it, it has been really, I don't know, like I click on it more this year than in past years, and I know what's going
Looks
on
good.
generally. Yeah, it looks really sharp. So
Mhm.
yeah, so good job,
Yeah.
Katie.
and then Katie does, all of our staff submit ideas for that.
Yeah.
Katie coordinates it, puts it all together. And I think we're doing maybe a little better job, could still do better to highlight other things instead of just programs. I think when we first started, it was all programs. Now we have other things, meetings, we talk about projects, different stuff. So
That's
yeah,
good.
good. Dwayne?
Keith, whatever happened to the art that we were going to get at Ada Hayden? I hadn't heard about that in a while, and it was such a beautiful sculpture and I know we had to put some money and some
Yeah.
infrastructure in for it, and that kind of dropped.
Yeah, so no, it's not a dead thing. We're still working on it. The three of us actually just had conversation about it this morning,
Oh.
and because Paul Shaw has given us when we met with him, we talked about some different things. He had come back recently with another idea as to how to mount them. So we had conversation about it this morning. So I'll be following up with Paul, and if we can still get it in this fall, that's what we're going to try to do.
Some
So
Eagles, man.
yeah. So that's where that is.
But that is that CIP funding or is that not? I forgot. We kind of talked about it a while back, and I didn't know if we put it in there or not.
Yeah, and if there may not be a need for a lot of funding from the city, to do, depending on what that is, it may come out of operations, might come out of maybe savings from another CIP project, but either way, it really shouldn't be a lot of money that we'll need to put into it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Keith, I have some comments about suggestions on what could be included and eliminated. I think as we look towards higher market costs, and we need to address high cost versus and low usage versus low cost and high usage. And I think we do a really good job as a team, looking at that. And the splash pad, toddlers have fun on a glorified sprinkler. And I don't know how we got from that to $1.2 million.
We're building another clubhouse.
If we just put out a really simple splash pad, the kids are going to have fun. And it's going to be really, really high use. So I don't know. I guess I see that things cost a lot more and stuff, gets
Yeah.
bigger, but that's really
Well,
big.
well, but the thing with it, Nathan, that's a good comment. But the thing with it is this isn't anything extravagant.
Yeah.
It's the splash pad itself is something that you probably see down in Ankeny
Yeah.
or see in other communities and so on. It might be a little bit bigger space because of the size of our community,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of the extra cost is the restrooms.
Wow.
And again, that's why we'll have the conversation, restroom, the shower
Everybody loves
facilities.
restroom conversations.
I do.
Yeah.
It's my
And
favorite part of the meetings.
so So, and that's where a lot of these other communities, they get this stuff done at less cost
Mhm.
because a lot of them do just the flow through,
Oh, sure.
you know, and Des Moines, you know, they're doing, redoing the thing downtown, and they're going from a recirc system to a flow through.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Josh had conversation with them, and they've also said that, you know, we'll only do flow through. So,
A lot of other communities don't have to pay for their water.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So we get what you're saying. And the one thing, you know, with this is, you know, it'll be a free activity.
Yep.
You know, there won't be any cost.
It'll be
And-
immensely popular too.
oh yeah. We'll get a lot of use. So, but I hear what you're saying. You know, high cost, low use versus high use, low cost.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. And we try to do what we can.
And that's where like I really like seeing that you're adding the skate park improvements because every time you go by 6th Street, that's packed. It's super full. It's very busy. And you know, you go through a lot of stuff and you see amenities that aren't ever being used, but the skate park is used every single day. So it's good to see stuff like that added to the CIP for
I mean,
the plan.
I think that's just one of the challenges we face. It's just in the last few years, all of the amenities in the park system have seen an increase in users. And so, you know, there are more maintenance costs, there are more upgrade requests, costs, whatever, you know, because you do have more people interfacing with the amenities and saying, this could be a little better, or, you know, or this is a safety concern, or, you know, whatever. But it's just, since COVID, for better or for worse, everyone is outside a lot more. And, you know, I think we feel that pinch a little
Right.
bit. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even with the and you saw it with the skate park, we actually just did repairs in
Yeah.
2016
Not that long
for
ago.
$150,000.
Right.
And that was some repairs, filling you know, the some of the holes, some of the walls, some of the cracks. And then we did add, you know, a few amenities to that as well. So yeah, it's just unfortunately everything costs money, and that's why I think we really need to be strategic
Right.
about when do we do things. You know, obviously we got to keep safe, just what you said, Sarah, keep it safe. But you know, if we and people always like the new stuff, but if we can't keep maintaining the stuff we have, then why do we keep adding, you know, new stuff? So it's finding that balance.
And I like that because when you think about like Hayden's Reserve may see 25 unique users a day. It's pretty high cost to develop a new park, whereas the skate park might have 250 users a day. So I think the money would be better spent, you know, maintaining our facilities that we're using.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yep.
With the splash pad, with the Daily Park splash pad, are you required to put in restrooms so that people can change? Or, I mean, could it be like Roosevelt Park with the porta potty and
Yeah. So with it, when you recirculate the water, then right now Iowa Department of Health, you know, they govern, you know, if you're recirculating water, it's like a swimming pool, and then all of those requirements kick in. So it is. I don't think we'll get by with porta potties. It's got to be, and we have to have showers. So they want people, anytime you have recirculating water, they want people to rinse before they go into it. You know, that's why even over here, you know, with the spray pad, you know, we've got two outdoor showers that are there because they're required. So
was that initially required? I just don't remember. I remember that permanent bathrooms were required when we first started discussing this, but I don't remember the shower requirement.
no, the showers are required. You know,
Always.
anytime you're
It's always
recirculating
Oh,
water.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We actually probably should have more. We just requested a waiver that we didn't
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I don't remember. I remember Daly Park was, uh, one of the better locations that we discussed because of the bathrooms already existed, but I didn't realize
Yeah.
that it was also a shower situation and requiring renovation of the bathrooms and expansion. So
Yeah. And initially, that may have been, something that we weren't aware of,
yeah,
with the showers, because restrooms had to be within, 200, I think 200 feet, and they had to have clear sight and so on. So, yeah, we just keep learning more and more. Any other comments?
I do have another quick one. Has there been vandalism at Bandshell? Is that why we're moving forward to hopefully get some cameras going on there? Is that what that's going to mitigate?
Yes. So it was a suggestion. So one of the things that with Bandshell, we have had a lot of issues with homelessness, and if you've been by there, from say if you were there 5 years ago to being there right now, there we took a lot of vegetation out around Bandshell, because what people were doing is they were staying there. They were storing items there. We had issues. We added automatic door locks. So they could close at night, because we were having undesirable types of activities going on. In there. Even now, sometimes what happens is our staff goes there to clean it in the morning, and they'll walk in and there'll be people in the in the restrooms.
I spent the night there.
Yeah, one of the other issues that we have is we have people sleeping on the stage. So what we have done is we actually have ordered, and we have it, we purchased it, a gate. We used to have a gate that would get closed across the front of the Bandshell. So we have that. Now we just have to get it installed, because what was happening, it takes a lot of time also, because sometimes we go into those restrooms, they might have been in there smoking, throughout the night. We have, situations where they've been drinking, they've been vomiting. Sometimes, they go to the bathroom, not where they're supposed to go in the bathroom. So it creates a lot of extra time to clean. We were having the same thing up on the stage. So we're trying to see what can we do we have conversations with the police, and they try to step up, patrols if something's happening. But, just in the last several years, we've had the Brookside restroom, on fire, the Ames Grove restroom on fire. We've had other vandalism, that happens. So yeah, so it's a combination of things.
Yeah, good.
So
Cameras would.
yeah, and that's something that we'll probably bring to commission in the future here in regards to cameras, and get your take on it. Because I know we had brought it up to city council one time. We actually put it in our budget to add some cellular cameras underneath some of the bridges, because there was one bridge where it was Resource Recovery, Public Works, and our staff took 8,000 pounds of trash out from underneath one of the bridges. But council has some concerns, civil liberties and so on, and people using the park, don't necessarily want their picture taken and so on. So it's a sensitive issue, but we do see it as a tool that could help us in the future. It's just how to go about it. So,
Thanks.
yep. Anything to add?
You're crushing it. You're doing good.
So,
are there any restrooms in the park system that lock automatically at night? I don't believe we have any. Or
Lock automatically? Yeah.
Yeah.
Ames Grove,
Innis Grove does. Okay.
let's grow Bandshell.
Bandshell. That's it.
These here
Well,
at the
these will
plaza
here.
will
Yeah.
will
Oh,
go.
okay.
We can't do it at Brookside because it's in a floodplain.
Okay.
Because
Oh.
it'll wreck the system.
Same thing, North River
Same in
Valley.
North River Valley, yeah.
Okay.
We haven't done any renovations to Moore Memorial or McCarthy Lee yet,
So
or Daly.
even with the automatic locking, there has been issues with
Yep,
like late night
yep.
vandalism. So, okay.
People will get in there before before 10:30. We also have they call it hypersonic or motion lights in there.
Mhm.
So we've worked with the police department, and if they see lights on in the bathroom after 10:30, they're supposed to stop in and clear them out of there. That happens at times. So still working. There's a lot going on all the time. So
Okay.
Anything else, Dwayne?
I last couple of weeks I've read where a couple communities have decided that the cost of some parks are just too much for their budgets to hit, and they're looking to divest parks that a developer may be able to infill in a thing. Do we have any park? I know we're very proud of our parks, but are there parks that are underperforming that may be something that we can cut our losses on and divest out of the portfolio and sell?
Yeah. So we have not had that conversation because it is something that from the public, we hear a lot of positive comments. The need for park space, even with the new comprehensive plan. Right now we have just about 19 acres per 1,000 population.
Yep.
And in the comprehensive plan, it is to try to keep that ratio with it. So it's something we would really have to have some conversation and some public meetings before we went that route. Right now what we're trying to do, Dwayne, is can we be smarter or do things differently within the parks? I think we've shared before, this year we designated some areas where we're doing no mow, where and I don't know how many acres we've done that.
probably close to 15, 20.
Yeah, so something like that. So what it does is we don't take as much time to mow, and then we can use our staff to do other things, for upkeep. We continue to try to do the no trim, and since 2015, I think when we kind of adopted this, we've gone from about 120 hours a week trimming down to about 40 labor hours. So that's 80 hours a week that we can have staff doing other things. So that's where we really try to get creative, keep the park space we have. Just can we do things differently to maintain it, or be smarter how we do things. So that's been our approach right now. But at some point, there have been times where people have said, well, we should just sell that, and we say, well, not so fast. It generally has been our approach, but it is something that we could have conversation about in the future.
I know with some of the changes that we've seen with the property tax rollback and things that we're not getting backfilled on, I didn't know, we keep hearing that the city budgets are getting tighter and tighter, and people want parks, but they also, in some cases, don't want to pay the higher tax. So I was just kind of concerned, is there something out there that we need to be concerned about that, I think we got 4 new parks on the horizon. You mentioned Hayden's up there. There may be some that are underutilized that we just kind of look at and say, all right, we've done everything we can. Is there a point just to make sure we're being aware of everything we need to be aware of?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's a good point, and it's a conversation we can have.
I guess from my perspective, a lot of the maybe like less accessed land that is in the park system is in the floodplain. Like I think about Carr Park and on the east side of Carr Park, and those sort of wooded trails, but that's not developable land, and that's not something that I would want to see converted back into farm cropland, just from a river, watershed perspective. then I mean, I think the focus of the neighborhood park situation is you want to have a park like, the Sunset Ridge Park. You want to have a park in a neighborhood that families and residents can walk to. And so I think, from my perspective, the concern of divesting underutilized parklands, it's like, okay, well, are you disadvantaging a group, a neighborhood, or whatever that is already lower income or lower, socioeconomic status? And maybe that park is, I think about Franklin Park, was maybe less used, but we did a modest amount of improvement to it. Added a picnic shelter, added some art and a little walking path and things like that, and make it a neighborhood resource as opposed to an underused asset. And that was a pretty modest improvement. So I guess that's just my perspective, is you want to have these parks in a neighborhood that are within walking distance, for the health of the neighborhood and the residents. So
In our national association, National Recreation and Park Association, they have a 10-minute, basically it's a 10-minute walk that everybody in a community should be able to get to some green space, a park, within 10 minutes of their home, which is about, half a mile. And that's about what our neighborhood parks are, kind of that half mile to a mile radius, and so on. And yeah, but yet the number of parks and the number of acres of parkland, they also say is really based on the community needs. That they used to have standards. They don't have standards anymore because it varies so much from community to community and what people value. So, but yeah, it's a good conversation. Yeah. Anything else on the CIP?
Oh, are any audience members? Okay, you can come to the podium and just state your name and address for the minutes.
This is the first time I ever talk to this audience, including the city council. Although I've been living here for almost 50 years. I consider myself one of the elder of the community. The reason I want to talk to the Honorable Commission is about a park in West Ames. We have Emma McCarthy Park. And about, I think, 40 years ago, there were gentlemen who are not with us anymore, Dr. Robert Doran, Dr. Bill McCormick, and Mr. Dobbs, who basically used to have a Hallmark store at the malls throughout the Midwest, and also they had all the during the ancient time when the people would be served food in the airplane. So he had that operation internationally. So these were good people, and I miss them greatly. About, I don't know how many years ago it was when we bought the Mons wood and donated to Iowa Heritage Foundation. Those nice three late gentlemen and me, who was the youngest, and because of that, being younger, that's why I'm still alive. And I'm glad that I'm alive, so basically I could transfer that history to you. The reason we bought it wasn't really to contribute to the already having enough park in Ames. At that time, the Ames wasn't overgrown that it is now today. So proportionally, as Mr. Director mentioned, that we're in a good shape right now. But it was because one of our friends, late David Block, who was a professor of architecture here at ISU, He had purchased that property, 40 acres, from Mrs. Munn, who used to have a Munnswood downtown by Dove, and then they moved to Airport Road. And he had bought it for almost $500,000. And he was planning to put 20, 34 houses in there. And suddenly the neighborhoods, we didn't know that. And because we were older, excluding me, I'm 76 years old, by the way. And next week going to be my birthday. So they came to us. They came to the pediatrician. They came to Mr. Dobbs. They came to Robert Duran, who delivers most baby in this town. And I don't know why they assume we have the money. So we could, between four of us, we put like $40,000 each, and I was the poorest one. So, but why we put that thing? I'm very good in negotiating for the budget. I noticed that the honorable gentleman was concerned about the money. So on the side note, if you ever need a free pro bono advice on how to finance something, I'm available. So what is going on? Me and Dr. Bill McCormick, we flew to Florida, where I think Boca Raton she was when she was alive. And the reason Dr. Bill McCormick came with me, Dr. Late McCormick had his father moved from Maine, who also, he was a retired physician, to Ames. And somehow Dr. Bill McCormick and Mrs. Munn happened to meet each other and they get married. And of course, Dr. Bill McCormick's father died. I'm sorry for giving you a boring story here, but I thought we are in the business of happiness for the people. That is what the park are about. So we use that as an advantage. And I told Bill, okay, you have to come with me. It's going to cost a little bit more, but he came and he was quiet, and I kind of schmoozed, and I was kind of a younger guy, so I was in 30s. And I convinced that Mrs. Munn, this is how much we have. And I sort of become obnoxious too. And I say, what do you want to do with the money? Everybody's going to hate you. I have to watch how I talk sometimes. But to make the story short, we gave her $150,000, and the $10,000 extra we had, late Mr. Block had put as, what do you call it, advance money, earnest money. So we just wrote a check to David Block, and of course, David and I, who we knew each other, we kind of broke our friendship for a while. He was mad of me. So we got the thing, and we didn't know what to do with it. So we hired a gentleman named Clark Paisley. He used to be a lawyer downtown here. And he negotiated, and he said, oh, let's give it to Iowa Heritage Foundation, and they know how to handle it with the city. And the rest is a story. But this was not the final plan. As we were working on it, suddenly we learned a lot about the park and recreation. And everybody was so busy in our group that we really, to be honest with you, telling you the truth, we were not so knowledgeable about the park and recreation. But that was what get us into the park and recreation. And then what happened later, there was a late architect who had a house, I don't know which number it is, right? When you go on Hickory down there, and then goes up, that corner, this architect had a house, and then there was a sliver on a flat plane, just like an appendix. It doesn't look like anybody's property or anything. And it was for the longest time that neighborhood has been developed, was part of the forest reserve. And it was priced at $12,000. I don't think if, as a natural value, it has zero value because nobody could use it. Except the gentleman who bought it, he harvested several 100,000 tree from it. Because for some reason, the tree were always fed the water. And, but the architect, we beg him, sell it to us. We still could just throw in $2,000-3,000. And I could blame my wife too, because I told my wife, let me go buy this house and do this. And she said, what a difference it makes. And I've been telling her, oh, now you see. So what happened is the idea was, I spent much of my time in New York. I went to NYU in New York in 70s, early 70s. So I know about the great park in New York done by the greatest, of course, who I am to say it to you, Mr. Olmsted, at Prospect Park in Brooklyn, Central Park in Manhattan, and all the contiguous park, like connecting park in the state of New York. So from there, suddenly we discussed that. We formed a group at that time called ourselves Geology Group, and our four groups grew up to be like 50 people. And we expanded to the Ames Education Foundation, everything else. But those are not related to this. Anyhow, the idea was now we have McCarthy Park? I kind of forget the name. Yeah, our park. To make it like what Olmsted was designing. At that time, before this gentleman moved in, and that was maybe why my wife kind of said, why you want to, we have little kids, why you want to spend your money on things that doesn't matter. Everybody was walking over that trail. And here is something, I don't know if anybody knows, that area used to be called the Sunset Rock. Anybody have heard that term? Is a glacier rock. The top surface of it. Oh, I'm sorry. About this area, a square, is have a kind of a dip into it. But then one geologist told me, oh, it goes like about 20 feet down there. And the significance of that rock is it has a historical value. This was part of the Mormon Trail. The name in Ames many years ago was not what it is, like what we call it Highland, was actually Lincoln Way. So Lincoln Way would come, go to the Highland, go to the 13th Street, because that railroad thing was closed. We didn't have the 13th Street connected to the rest of the 13th Street. And I'm guilty for designing that, again, pro bono for the city. I used to be professor at civil engineering. So what happened is that has a lot of history. A lot of people knew about it. So Mormons would perform their wedding over that rock. Also, that what is called Manswood now was used for Ames School. So they had a nature laboratory there. And especially the people at Edwards, which used to be now, thanks again to Park and Recreation and generous donation by one of our former neighborhood, is a park right now. But before, that school and many other schools would go to Manswood, and they were taught about botany or whatever the nature was. But they've been deprived from that for many years. And then this gentleman who bought this property, he basically at the beginning started to attack people who bypassing, because we could hear it very loud, and sometimes threatening their life with his showing his shotgun. And I just thought, oh, it's not my time, it's not my turn. But until I hear that from two of our new neighbors who didn't know about this situation, with their elderly mother, their life were threatened. And I said, oh no, I cannot be quiet. I have to go. And as I said, this is the first time I ever been talking to anybody. But anyway, I'm sorry, I may have talked. What I'm requesting, we found somebody who would provide your concern, a family who lost their daughter, who always walked through that. We call that a clear creek. And by the way, that clear creek is recharging the Ames surfacial aquifer. That's
So-
going what that park.
So you have a park naming request? Is that
I'm sorry?
a park naming request?
No, we
Oh.
don't. No, none
Okay.
of these. We
Well-
don't have. No, what our request is suggested by the family of that woman who passed away. That because like a year or 2 years before she passed away, their house was somewhere nearby the highland, and she always walked that thing since she was a child, and she died like almost at this age of 60 years old. So, but because she was stopped by this gentleman to go through that, their family discussed it with me like about 2 years ago or something, but I have been procrastinating it. The request is we are willing to, when I say we, is not me, is the people now, the new generation, the neighborhood, that they are willing to basically hire the landscape architect, pay for everything, pay for the purchase. I don't like the use of eminent domain to enroll into anybody's property. This is a sliver of a flat plain, no use to anybody, and used to connect the Mondswood to the Emma McCarthy Park. So consider that, and I make myself available, and we could get fund for it. So it's not going to be any pressure. I have agreed to pay for the design of the whoever landscape architect is. All of my
So-
children are grown up; they're making good money. I don't need money.
So,
I
well,
want to consider that.
so so this can be a different channel. So the capital improvements plan is funds from the city used for improvement. So if there is a sort of a neighborhood project, and if it's land that is currently privately owned, and you would like to deed it to the city, or have some sort of easement, or like a trail easement, or deed it to Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation, things like that. Those conversations can happen outside of the capital improvements plan, because the capital improvements plan is our sort of our annual budget setting. So if this is privately donated land, private project, you can speak with Keith after the meeting, and I would say you and the other neighborhood folks that are interested in this project can meet with him separately about all the details.
That is,
So,
again,
but-
this person have a, I even don't want to be.
Well,
No, there is,
yeah.
this is what I'm bringing it out. I
Yes.
say that I'm against enforcing the eminent domain. What I'm saying is, this is basically in terms of the related to any property and relating to any house is irrelevant. There is a house
Well,
here, and then about a sliver, like
Sure.
about maybe 20 feet, and actually some of that land goes into the creek.
sure.
So
So there are trail easements, there are easements that can be discussed, but that's more of a discussion to happen directly with parks. That isn't necessarily something that's going to go in the budget. If there wants to be an easement or part of the land to be deeded to the city, that's just a conversation that needs to happen between the landowner and the city.
So Johan,
Yes,
I
please.
think what we do is how about if you want to stick around,
Yes, sir.
you and I can have conversation after this meeting.
Yes, sir.
And then I'll go through this more.
Yes.
And we can have more conversation.
Yes, again,
About it,
I'm
so-
kind of novice about this
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And
It's
I
okay.
really appreciate the information. But what I'm saying also, I know that the sister and brother and the father of this deceased lady for the past 2 years, and I've been procrastinating, my apology to them. They say we pay for it. So you shouldn't be worried
Sure.
about the money.
Yeah.
Sure. For example, so on Jarrett Circle, we're going to talk about it shortly, but there is another weird sliver of land that goes down into the park, and that land is going to be donated to the park system, pending the current owners moving away from the land. So right now, but
Yeah.
we're having those conversations now. So anyway, that's not necessarily part of the capital improvements plan, but I think we can figure out a mechanism.
Yeah, it's
for
a
you.
kind of multifaceted, and the reason it put fire under me to come to Honorable Commission was I felt that one family from Argentina, so they didn't know how to handle
Sure.
it. Another family, they are themselves lawyers, by the way. One of them is a sitting member of council. I didn't want to talk to them, but their mother, their life was threatened, and this thing could accelerate because this gentleman family wife has recently
Sure.
lived here, and he getting to the next stage of agitation. So this is something that we want to be preemptive in protecting
Sure.
public.
Yeah, that's fine.
But again, my apology for
No, it's
taking
okay.
too much of your
But
time.
thanks.
Thanks
And sir,
for
yeah, I
bringing
wait
it
for
up,
you, and then we
Yep,
could
and
talk.
we'll talk
We'll
after the
we'll
meeting.
talk more
Yeah,
about
thank
it.
you so much. I
all right,
really
thank you.
appreciate it. And I really appreciate what you've been doing. And thank you for the making the Ames the most beautiful park.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
All right. Is there any other feedback on the capital improvements project? All right. If not, we'll move on to an update regarding the donation of property at 1000 Jarrett Circle.
Yeah, just coming off of the last meeting, our commission, raised some concerns, the way the two stipulations that the property owners had. So the attachment that was sent out with the agenda was just kind of a way for the property owners to take what you said and say, no, this is what we mean. Stairs are fine. How Parks, maintains it. And everything is fine with them. So that's really all I wanted to say. We are taking this to City Council for next Tuesday, the 26th. So, take your recommendation to accept the property with those changes. So that's really all I wanted to say is that we did have follow up with the property owners and we're moving forward.
That sounds good.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is project updates.
Yeah. So with Fitch Family Indoor Aquatic Center, continue to move forward. Over the last month, Courtney, Joshua, and I, and other staff members have had multiple meetings with the design team. Started, looking a little bit more specific in regards to finishes, paint colors, what concrete, tile, all those types of things. So my thanks to all of our staff for being involved in those meetings. We are going to be going to City Council next week on Tuesday, just giving them an update. And there are 3 areas that we're probably focusing on. One is just in regards to the Iowa Department of Health, or the state of Iowa, with the requirements regarding the aquatics plans, that there has been some conversation or suggestion about don't put the documents out to bid until we have an approval from the state. That could take 8 weeks. They won't look at them until we have a stamped engineered set of drawings, or an engineer stamped set of drawings, which we won't have those until we're ready to put it out to bid. So really the conversation with council is that we want to do that concurrently, which is what most municipalities, if not all municipalities, do. They put it out to bid, they submit the plans, and then get the construction permit. So that's one topic that we're going to be talking about. And the design team, Water's Edge, RDG, they have been having conversation with the state, already have clarification, have direction on some of the questions that we've had. So that's going well. The second item is we did get to some recommendations from Impact 7G from the environmental side of things, what to do. Some of their recommendations, add a vapor barrier, certain materials for piping, location of piping and utilities, and so on. So we'll be sharing that information with council. And then the last item is the Story County Board of Supervisors have approved giving the city $500,000 for capital costs. Initially, they wanted all Story County residents to pay the same rate as Ames residents for forever, basically, which is very different than what we had with the Healthy Life Center. With the Healthy Life Center, they were going to give $2 million for capital cost, and they were going to give $100,000 each year with a 3% escalator, and that was going to be for 25 years. So we said yes, we want the money. Worked with their staff, and right now what we're taking to council is, the recommendation is to accept the $500,000 with a 10-year period for the Story County residents to get resident rates. And then if they, after that 10 years, if they want to renegotiate or do something, then we'll have that conversation. And that would look more like they either give us a, lump sum, or, maybe, give so much per year on an annual basis for operations. So those are the three items that we're going to be taking to council next week. Any questions on that? Okay. The Stephen L. Schenker Plaza, more activity going on, over there. A little bit more. They're starting to work on things with the spray pad. They did put the transmission lines in for the ice making facility that from in the garage area, from the building area out underneath, and then those will tie into all of the piping that will go underneath the ice, or the concrete that will make the ice. So next week we'll start seeing some grading going on. See some rock put down. Eventually we'll start seeing some piping, going in. So we'll see, just continue to go. So I think we've got most everything. There's a couple of items that we still need to work through, but most of everything is been resolved. And now we'll just get it all done. So, and then the last one with the Sands McDormand property, we were to close early this week. There was a snag with one document that needed to be provided from the sellers. So right now we did not close. They're working through getting that final document. Hopefully we can close in the next week or two. But their lawyer and an accountant are working on those pieces. So once we have that, everything else is done. Josh and I have met with the sellers. We've done a walkthrough. They've cleaned everything up on the site, got rid of everything that we asked them to get rid of. They took care of the septic issue. So pretty much everything that we've asked them to do, they've done. They're just, again, that snag with the one document. But then we will close with it. And right now, once we get it, we'll have to work through with the buildings and see if there's a buyer for the house, which is what the council gave us direction on. They want to keep the garage and the milk house, see if there's buyers for the barnwood for those two buildings. We'll need to take some fencing down. Take some hazard trees down. So a number of things that would need to happen eventually. And at the same time, what we want to do is we want to develop a plan in the short term until the park is developed. And that short-term plan will include things such as prairie burning, prairie maintenance, invasive species control, all that kind of stuff. Maybe start working on some stream bank stabilization, some water quality, and so we'll get that plan together. At some point, maybe we'll open it up for people to walk, just the mowed trails, throughout the area. 2025, we'll start having public input. We'll hire a consultant to help us with a site plan, and And then once the site plan is done and a variety of multiple community meetings, then we'll have to identify the funding and then eventually get it developed. So this will be multiple years before anything gets developed. So the person who mentioned on the CIP about the dog park in West Ames did suggest putting it out there. But again, what we'll be doing is we'll be having conversation with the entire community, because this will be a community park, and getting feedback and really seeing what do people want to see, in this park, and that will be the basis for our design. So it'll be a long process. It'll be a fun process. We actually have an ISU landscaping class that is going out there, and they're doing it as their semester project, kind of their studio. So they will be putting together plans, site plans, what they think how it should look. So we may be able to use some of those components if we see something that's really neat, see something that, oh, that's a great idea. When we do hire a consultant, we can share some of that with them and say, hey, try to incorporate this. So that's where we're at with the McDormand property.
Next item on the agenda is a monthly report.
Thanks. I just wanted to mention a few things. Great news, the Ames ISU Ice Arena will be opening on Monday, September 25th, so we're excited about that. And like some conversation at the beginning of the meeting, we have a new component of that facility with the mural in the stairwell at the facility. The Public Arts Commission partnered with the facility to procure artists from Minnesota to come down and paint a mural that really encompasses all the activities and the people that utilize that facility. And it turned out really great. So we encourage everybody to come out next week or sometime when the facility is open to take a look at that. It's really great. Also, just wanted to make a few notes. Furman Aquatic Center, you'll notice in the reports, had a great season. We'll also have staff here at the next commission meeting to provide their full report. And also a lot of things have been happening, obviously, with the end of the summer out at Bandshell and at the auditorium. And it doesn't end now. We actually have our concert series beginning at the end of this week, September 29th, on Fridays. Like I said, starting next week, the concert series will be called Fifth and Clark Fridays. And the great thing is Craig Kaufman, the auditorium, Bandshell, and community center manager, was able to procure a grant from the Iowa Arts Council for a little over $2,700 to be able to expand that concert series this year. So instead of just offering 6 concerts, we'll be able to offer 12 concerts this year with that grant funding and be able to extend it from the fall into the spring. So we encourage everybody to come out to those concerts. There's $5 for a ticket. And then we have a new pricing for students as well, so they can get a 2-for-1 discount for them to participate with their student ID. So thank you.
Just want to highlight a couple projects. The contractor for the McCarthy Lee pickleball courts will be on site starting next Tuesday. So it'll be nice to finally get that going and get that done. Unfortunately, it's at the end of the season, but at least we're going to get it done and people will be able to enjoy it. Hopefully, maybe by the end of this year, or hopefully in the next couple of weeks, but also the rest of this year, and obviously starting next spring. And then also the contractor HPC is continuing to make progress on the Innis Grove restroom. The roof is installed, the skylights have been installed. They're waiting on some materials for the inside, but that'll be wrapped up hopefully by the end of October. So.
Lost my agenda. All right. I clicked away from my agenda.
Commission member comments.
All right. Okay. We are back. That's what I thought. So, all right. Are there any commission member comments? Does anyone care to make a motion regarding the Ames Pickleball Club grant application? You can just direct staff to work with Ames Pickleball Club to draft a letter of support for their grant application.
Ooh, I'd like to do that.
Okay.
Did you write that all down, Keith?
I got it.
Okay, cool.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion or additions to that motion? Is that fine? Okay. With it, I guess with the deadline of September 30th.
Yeah. So let's move quick.
Well, you guys, sorry. No. All right. If there's no discussion on that motion, all in favor of directing staff to draft a letter of support of the Ames Pickleball Grant application, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Seeing none, the motion carries. Any other comments? Great summer, guys. It just went too fast. So, but I know it's a busy time. So, all right. Are there any other comments? Otherwise, I'd take a motion to adjourn.
I will motion to adjourn.
All right. Meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah,
Have a good night.
it was a good meeting. 4 minutes.